Nobody ever warns you about this. They tell you saving money is smart. They tell you saving money is responsible. They tell you saving money is how ordinary people become secure. But they never tell you the one thing that history proves again and again. Saving money does not protect you. It exposes you. And in every major financial reset, the people who saved the most were the ones who lost the most. Not because they were stupid. Not because they were reckless. But because they trusted the system that created the money they were saving. This isn't about motivation. This isn't about hustle. This isn't about taking wild risks. This is about understanding a pattern that has repeated for thousands of years. A pattern so consistent that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Saving money feels safe because it is passive. You don't have to make decisions. You don't have to challenge authority. You don't have to question the system. You simply store currency and wait. But waiting has never been neutral. When you save money, you are making a bet. A bet that the system will remain stable. A bet that governments will remain disciplined. A bet that institutions will honor promises decades into the future. History shows that these bets always fail. Saving money does not mean storing value. It means storing trust. And trust is the first thing that collapses when systems grow too large to support themselves. From childhood, you are trained to believe that money is solid, that numbers in an account represent something permanent, that if you delay gratification today, you will be rewarded tomorrow. But money is not permanent. Money is a tool, and tools change when those in control need them to. Your bank balance is not wealth. It is a claim on wealth, a claim that depends on banks staying solvent, a claim that depends on governments managing debt responsibly, a claim that depends on inflation staying under control. None of these conditions last forever. People imagine collapse as chaos. They imagine panic, riots, and sudden breakdowns. But real financial collapse is quiet. It happens through policy updates, through legal adjustments, through technical language no one reads. By the time the public notices, the damage is already done. This is why saving money feels safe right up until it isn't. Governments don't collapse because they run out of money. They collapse because they run out of credibility. When spending consistently exceeds production, debt grows. When debt grows faster than the economy, it becomes unpayable. When debt becomes unpayable, the system faces a decision: default openly or devalue quietly. Default is honest but explosive. Devaluation is subtle and survivable for those in power. So devaluation is always chosen. This is the real purpose of inflation. Inflation is not rising prices. Rising prices are a symptom. Inflation is the deliberate expansion of money supply. It reduces the real value of existing currency. It allows debt to be paid back with weaker money. It shifts purchasing power away from savers. Inflation is a tax that requires no legislation. It creates no protests. It produces no immediate outrage because it happens slowly. And saving money places you directly in its path. Rome learned this lesson first. At the height of Roman power, the empire faced massive expenses: armies, infrastructure, public programs. Instead of reducing spending, Rome reduced the silver content in its coins. The currency looked identical. It was accepted everywhere. Life continued normally. But over time, the same coin bought less food, less land, less labor. The middle class saved coins. They believed currency was stability. The elites owned land, businesses, and gold. When the system finally reset, the middle class disappeared. Not overnight. Gradually. They worked harder, saved more, and fell behind anyway. Spain repeated the mistake centuries later. An empire overflowing with precious metals believed it could never fail. But flooding an economy with money does not create wealth. It destroys it. Prices surged. Savings lost meaning. Wages lagged. Those who saved silver lost purchasing power every year. Those who owned productive assets survived. China experienced the same cycle. Paper money promised efficiency and convenience, but convenience encourages excess. Printing accelerated to fund the state. Trust collapsed. People holding paper were wiped out. People holding real assets survived. Britain followed. Debt from wars and empire maintenance demanded sacrifice. Rather than default, the pound was devalued. Savings evaporated without being confiscated. Empires do not end violently. They end financially. Now look at the present. Savings accounts yield almost nothing. Inflation quietly eats purchasing power. Every year you save money, it buys less than it did before. This is not a failure of policy. It is the policy. Modern economies are built on debt. Debt requires inflation to remain manageable. Inflation requires savers. Savers absorb the loss. Banks use your deposits to fund loans. Governments rely on inflation to reduce debt burdens. Corporations benefit from cheap capital. You receive the illusion of safety. They receive time. Saving money is promoted as responsible behavior because responsible people are predictable. They don't panic. They don't question. They don't demand answers. They wait. The system depends on this patience. When too many people demand real value, systems fracture. So the narrative must be preserved. Save for emergencies. Save for retirement. Trust institutions. But retirement accounts are promises. Pensions are obligations. Currencies are agreements. Agreements can be rewritten, especially when power is uneven. Financial resets do not confiscate savings directly. They reprice them. Your account balance stays the same. But what it can buy changes. Food, housing, energy. Everything becomes more expensive. Nothing is taken. Everything is lost. People sense something is wrong, so they search for alternatives. Stocks, funds, digital assets. But if your wealth exists only inside systems, it depends on those systems functioning perfectly. Access can be limited. Rules can change. Taxes can increase. Ownership becomes conditional. The wealthy understand this. They do not save money. They convert money into things that cannot be printed. Scarcity protects value. They do not fight resets. They position before them. Because by the time inflation becomes obvious, it is already too late. Savings have already been diluted. The transfer has already occurred. Saving money feels safe because it delays discomfort. But delayed discomfort compounds. And when it finally arrives, it arrives completely. This is why ordinary people feel like they're falling behind despite doing everything right. They work harder. They save more. They sacrifice. Yet they feel poorer every year. This is not personal failure. It is structural design. Saving money makes you poor because the system requires your savings to function. Your loss is someone else's stability. Understanding this is not about fear. It is about clarity. Because history does not punish ignorance. It punishes trust without understanding. And the system will never explain why saving money makes you poor.